If you're just a human like the rest of us and these things are important to you and living life and sleeping at night's important to you, then 10 versus 12% rate of return, there's nothing you're going to look back on and wish. You need to fund your life. And if that requires an inoptimal financial decision, whether that's selling at down markets or paying off your mortgage when it's got a low rate or not paying off your mortgage, whatever, there's lots of, I think, examples we could use, then that's what you have to do.
Welcome to the Military Money Manual Podcast, where every episode is all about achieving financial independence in the military faster than before. We believe personal finance shouldn't be boring or intimidating. Building wealth can be simple, and financial freedom is the ultimate financial goal. Now, here's your hosts, Spencer and Jamie.
Erik, welcome back to the show. So good to have you back again. For those who don't know Erik Baskin, check out the show notes and we'll have his bio and his links to everything in there. Erik, one of the maybe unseen risks that investors have in their portfolio is too much cash. And it's a great problem to have, right? And a lot of people listening to this podcast might not be able to resonate with that. But for a certain super saver, like someone, maybe the people who listen to podcasts about money, having too much cash in their portfolio or having too much cash in their overall net worth could be a risk that they're taking. And they might not even see it as a risk, right? Like they might think, no, I'm de-risking because I have this nice cash stockpile. But that's not always true, right?
Thanks for having me back. Glad to be here again. Two caveats before we get into the conversation, like those that spend less than they make, right? If you're overspending your income, I think it's difficult to talk about holding too much cash because you've burned it all or you are burning it all, right? And then I'd say for like those that are saving for a down payment on a house, something really specific, a goal in the next 1 to 3 years, that money certainly should be nowhere near the stock market, in my opinion. So outside of those two things, we're kind of just talking about cash that's just accumulating over a series of months and years because we're making more than we spend every month. And I think this is especially, we saw this a lot. I've seen this in my practice a lot the last couple of years, just with the interest rates on savings accounts being like over 5%. Now they're 4, maybe maximum. They're in the high 3s, depending on where you got it. That's kind of like an attractive interest rate that a lot of people, they were really excited about. So they were putting money in these high yield savings accounts and talking about it and getting excited about it. Meanwhile, right in 2023 and 2024, markets generally returned about 20+% each year. And high yield savings are returning 5%. And that's, I want to also say that's pre-tax, right? So interest on savings accounts is taxed at both the federal and state levels. So depending on what state you're in and what bracket you're in, you're really getting more like a 3 to 4% post-tax return. And I think some people probably had a little bit of a surprise on their tax return. If they did have a lot of cash, like we're talking like 100 grand or something or more, you're going to go to that tax return and you're going to upload your 1099 int from whatever savings institution that is. And you're going to be shocked at what that bill is because all that money that you've just been getting paid in that account, you owe regular income taxes on that. That's not capital gains. That is ordinary income. So the bigger risk is unintentionally building up too much cash and not deploying it to retirement accounts, taxable brokerage accounts, rental real estate, things that are going to grow at a rate much greater than 3 to 4% post-tax.
What you just said there about unintentionally building up cash reserves, I think that's the big thing. Like if you have a plan, if there's a purchase that's coming up and you're like, okay, we're going to be setting aside a couple $1,000 every quarter because we're saving for that goal. And we don't want to risk it in the stock market because we need to make sure that the actual principal is there, the value of it. But we don't want it just sitting in a checking account because we're getting no return on that money. And so we're going to find, an FDIC insured savings account or a certificate of deposit or a money market. And we can talk about all the different forms that cash investments can take. But we're going to find some vehicle where we can get a solid return, probably somewhere around the Fed funds rate. And then we're just going to park the money there and let it grow. But we're going to do that intentionally, right? We're going to do it with having a plan. You talked about clients who have unintentional money building up. I know Jamie's talked with some couples before, high earning, maybe dual military, maybe one's a lawyer, one's a doctor, and they start making good money and they've got $250,000 sitting in their checking account and they're paralyzed, right? Because now it's a big amount. And we talked about this on a recent episode about dollar cost averaging versus lump sum investing. We can get into that a little bit too, but all of a sudden, like the cash, it's like we're scared that we're going to screw this up because we've got this money, but it's a lot of money. Whereas if we had just had a plan and we had invested it every month, it wouldn't have felt so big because, okay, we're putting a couple $1,000s in every month into whatever our plan is, but we don't have this giant cash cushion. So I guess one other question following from that is, if you see a client that's got that big, $100,000, $150,000 checking account and is like, what do I do? How do you talk to them first of all, and then what do you do after that?
So kind of going back to what I said, if the first time too, like if I run into a client with 100, 150 grand, it's all right, let's think about the two things we need to set aside. A, emergency buffer. Depending on the situation, we can think of that as anywhere from 3 to 6 months living expenses, right? More towards 6 if we're a solo income earner in our household. Maybe we own a business. Maybe we have a large mortgage, right? We own a bigger house. We've got more things that could happen in our life. Maybe that's closer to 6. If we're a dual income, we're renting, right? We don't have a lot of overhead. Maybe that's closer to 3, or maybe it's 2 if you have a really stable job, like you're in the military. So emergency fund, let's just say it's 30K out of that 100. Okay, great. And then what in the next, I ask like the big ones, cars, houses, large vacations. Are we buying any of those in the next 1, 2, 3 years? If so, I want to know about it. And we need to talk about where that's going to be funded. I really like to bring up that conversation once or twice a year, at least once a year with clients, just because it gets them thinking and will unearth some things that I wouldn't know about if I didn't ask. And it's really important because I don't want to be investing money in the stock market that could drop. When we're recording this, US markets have dropped maybe 10% the last month or so. I don't want to put money at risk of dropping 10, 20, 30% that we need to use for a car, down payment on a house, something like that. So I think we'll carve out that emergency fund, we'll carve out those short-term goals, and then past that, let's say that remainder is 50K, 70K, whatever it is, I will tell that client, hey, mathematically, the best time to invest this money was yesterday. If you want the math answer, it's put it in today. Kind of get like wide-eyed looks sometimes, and they're a little bit scared about that. So I say it's completely okay. We're not going to call it dollar cost averaging though. This is like, we're creating like a facade so that our mind is okay with investing this money. Like we're creating a monthly contribution for the next 6 months or 12 months. We'll put it on autopilot, 10 grand a month, whatever that is, to exhaust those funds so that you can sleep better at night investing this money in the markets. And usually that gets a good response. And I know it's not a mathematically optimal solution for that client just from the data, but I do know that now we're getting money into the markets. It is generally going to be a good thing. And it's not all about the math, right? We talk about that all the time. Whatever is going to get clients to implement recommendations generally that are going to be good for them, even if it's not in the most optimal way, I'm game for. So I know personal finance is squishy. It's not all in a spreadsheet.
So how do you know if it's too much cash? Is it always like you walk through with that emergency fund plus a new car coming up plus a house down payment? Or is there a rule of thumb percentage or anything? Or do you have to kind of go by the numbers?
I would say, again, rule of thumb would be 3 to 6 months of expenses. So what's our monthly burn, if you will? If it's 10 grand a month, that's a minimum of 30 grand. And then just talking through, okay, what's the rest for? And usually you just get kind of a blank stare. But again, certain clients, I think those that are tracking their spending and know it really well, I feel much more comfortable being like, okay, let's invest the rest. Or those that are making way more than their income, right? That monthly surplus, if you will, is 4, 5, 6, 7, 10,000. Like those clients, you feel really comfortable tossing a lot of money into markets. But those that are kind of like they don't want to or aren't efficiently tracking their spending, or those that are more so kind of treading water on a monthly basis with their income and spending, I think I'm a little bit more hesitant and probably want to hold some more cash. I also want to know that client psychographic. When you get to know clients, you bring them on board, I like to ask about their money history and how they grew up with money and what kind of their schema is around money. So those that are, scarcity, have kind of that scarcity mindset around money, maybe we need to hold a little bit more cash for them to sleep better at night, which is super important. Other clients are kind of optimizers and they're like, hey, I want every dollar working for me. Let's put it in the markets. I understand that. You could be a little bit more aggressive with those clients.
Okay, so we've run the numbers. I know I need my 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Mm-hmm. I got a PCS coming up this summer, so I padded a little bit. My cars we own, I don't need a new car. Okay, I come up with a number, say it's $60,000, whatever, just a made up number. Where do you recommend with your clients to actually put that cash to work? Are we holding it at USA or maybe Federal in a very low interest rate checking account?
Yeah, good question. So I do recommend, whatever that 1 month of living expense float, let's just call it 10 grand, just to stay in that USAA checking. Most of my clients have USAA, but wherever you're kind of running that auto pay credit card bill out of, we don't want to run it down to zero each month. We need a little bit of flex in there, but the rest of that excess in a high yield savings account for sure. I manage assets for clients at Altruist as a custodian. It's like a Schwab or a Fidelity or a Vanguard. It's just for advisors. We have a high yield savings account there for them. That's what I do in my practice. If I was just talking to anybody off the street, there's high yield savings accounts online, right? Amex, Ally, Synchrony. They're all going to pay between 3.5% and 4%, I think, today. Opening those up takes all of 5 minutes. Transferring the money takes another 5 minutes. It's pretty easy to do, but you'd be shocked at how many people hold 70, 80, 90, 100 grand plus at Navy Fed, USAA, and get absolutely nothing on their savings. And we're talking in the last couple of years, $4,000 to $5,000 a year just so they could go grab. So it wasn't important 4 or 5 years ago when rates were 0.7% on savings or something. This conversation was less important, but optimizing your cash at this point is still very worthwhile.
I remember when I was a young lieutenant, and one time I happened to walk by, I think I may have told this story before on an old episode, but happened to walk by someone's computer and they were logged in the mission planning room to their USA account. He was a senior captain and his wife was in the medical field in the Air Force as well. And in their USA checking out $250,000. And my first thought was like, holy cow, people actually have that money. Like, I was a young lieutenant. I didn't have that kind of money. I didn't know that people in the military did. And then now looking back, I'm like, holy cow, why'd you have all that money in your checking account? Like, even if it's not a high yield savings, I'm guessing your 6-month emergency fund is probably not that high. Maybe some of that gets invested if there's a long-term plan there.
For sure. I think people need to understand what those sources of liquidity would potentially be in the event of an emergency. And the more sources and the more robust those sources are, I think the less actual cash you may need to hold, right? So just to open up people's brains to what is out there, right? If we just have a simple taxable brokerage account that's invested in ETFs, whatever, all stuff we've talked about and recommended, that stuff's going to go up and down with the markets, right? We're recording this in March of 2025. The last month has not been that fun for markets, but that money's accessible to you. Other alternatives, a home equity line of credit. Lots of people have lots of equity in their home. I don't love this option, but that's potentially there if we needed liquidity someday. Your Roth IRA contributions are always available to you to take out, tax-free, penalty-free, just the contribution portion, not the earnings. Sometimes people are scared of locking out money like that in a Roth IRA, so they're 59.5, and I kind of give them that solace. Hey, we can take out your contributions if we needed to. 401k loans, very easy to get from a TSP loan. Easy to get, hits your account in like 10 days, costs you $50. You pay yourself interest back. Again, not my favorite option, but it's there. You could sell a car. I was actually talking to a client this week that has a $40,000 car, 2024. I think it was like 45 grand. And I was like, you're not going to like this option, but we could get a $10,000 car. And there we've just created some liquidity. So there's just options out there that folks aren't always thinking about when they're thinking about like, how much cash do I need? And I need to hoard it in case my water heater breaks. And it's like, hey, we've got options. They're out there. So just another thing to think about as you think about how much cash you need to hold.
Just a quick note from one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back to the show. Hey, Jamie, we got a lot of great people out there listening to the podcast. Any resources you'd like to point them to continue the education on financial independence in the military?
Yeah, if you're getting value out of this podcast, but you just want a little more detail or some more practical steps, you got to check out the Military Money Manual book by Spencer Reese, A Practical Guide to Financial Freedom. In here, Spencer laid out everything that he wished he had been told when he first joined the military, and it's going to help you build wealth and take advantage of your benefits while you're serving on active duty or in the reserves or in the Guard.
The Military Money Manual is available on Amazon, Audible, and my website, shop.militarymoneymanual.com in hardcover, paperback, ebook, Kindle, and audiobook. Podcast listeners are eligible for a special discount by using promo code PODCAST when you purchase the Military Money Manual on shop.militarymoneymanual.com.
So, Erik, I want to just dive in a little bit deeper on that question of the liquidity of the brokerage account. So let's say that someone's PCS in this summer and they don't really have the cash ready for that, and they wanted to pull $5,000 or $10,000 to cover their personal procured move or a down payment on a house. Maybe they need $20,000 or $30,000, and the market's down right now, like you said, as we're recording this. What are some considerations and some maybe thoughts you would walk through with someone that needs the cash, it's invested, and the market's down?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think it's fun to take out of investments when the market's down. No one's going to like that, but it's your money. Kind of that's what it's there for. I'd kind of have a tough love conversation. We kind of have to get over the fact that markets are down 10%. You still might be very much up on these investments and therefore have a lot of built-in capital gains. So I've still seen that quite a bit. Maybe we'll have some capital losses if we've been investing consistently. I was doing that last week for some clients, is some tax loss harvesting, create some capital losses that we can take against ordinary income this year, build up some capital losses that we can take against gains maybe in future years. So I think there's still opportunities for wins, even when markets are down and we need cash out of our taxable brokerage account. I think ultimately, if you haven't done the planning, you kind of know when you PCS, a year ago, we probably should have been setting aside or thinking about cash for that PCS. So if at this point we're rating the taxable brokerage account, that's just kind of a necessary evil of the situation we're in.
Another thing, Jamie, I would offer there is, let's say you just need the cash quickly, but you're still planning on making investments over the next couple of months. Let's say you pull $20,000, $30,000 out of your taxable brokerage. And then you just, over the next couple of months, you just keep reinvesting back into those same shares, obviously watching the wash sales rules, where basically you can't sell a stock and then repurchase it and then claim the capital loss on it. Is that a good summary, Eric?
Yeah.
So now you have the cash, right? And then you're continuing to repurchase those shares. And maybe the market recovers, right? Maybe the market shoots back up 10, 20%. You sold at the bottom and you're like, dang it, like that was a mistake, quote unquote. But it really wasn't, you don't have to qualify as a mistake. You needed the cash, you had it available, and you accessed it. And then you went back in and you continued to invest in the market. And fast forward a year, fast forward 5 years, fast forward 30 years if you have to. Are you even going to remember that you did that? No. Yeah. But you're probably going to remember the house that you bought, and it's going to be okay, especially if you're a long-term investor, if you're a long-term income earner, you're going to be continuing to invest over the course of your lifetime. A little blip like that, it might sting, it might not. Again, for the optimizers out there, it's like, no, never sell, right? Never sell your shares. But like you said, Eric, maybe it's time for the tough love conversation where it's like, well, why is the money there? Why are you saving this money if not to do something with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just goes back to like, why are we doing what we're doing? Is the goal? What's the goal? For some people, the goal might be, I want to have the highest return of any of my friends over the next 20 years. We're all comparing it in a spreadsheet. In that case, all right, if we're playing that game, like, sure, I guess like you can't PCS, you can't go have a vacation. Like we got to invest everything. If you're just a human like the rest of us, and these things are important to you and living life and sleeping at night's important to you, then 10 versus 12% rate of return, there's nothing you're going to look back on and wish. You need to fund your life. And if that requires an inoptimal financial decision, whether that's selling at down markets or paying off your mortgage when it's got a low rate or not paying off your mortgage, whatever, there's lots of, I think, examples we could use like that. Then that's what you have to do.
Eric, before we wrap up here, I just want to kind of go through what the current landscape looks like for cash and cash equivalent investments. This is a question I see come up on Reddit sometimes, like, where are people, people love to rate chase, and I'm not big on that. I like to keep it simple. I like to, things that move the needle, right? So if you're going from a checking account that's paying you 0% and you're moving to an FDIC insured high yield savings account that's paying, 2, 3, 4, sometimes, in the last couple of months, so as high as 5%, or you're locking in a 5-year CD at 5%. Okay, that moves the needle on your cash, right? But yeah, we're talking about moving from treasury bonds to I bonds to an ETF, and it's all just a couple basis points.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about that, but let's just talk about what are the big vehicles that are available right now for consumers to make sure that their cash is getting some return.
Yeah, I'd say there's 3, I guess, main buckets. Are all going to be very similar, to be honest. One being high yield savings. So we've talked plenty about that. It's probably my preferred method. I think it's just so accessible. It's so liquid. Rates are really generally pretty good right now. The other two buckets available to us are going to pay a little bit higher, but I don't know for most people that it's worth it. So high yield savings is going to be one. You can find those at, again, Google best high yield savings accounts. The Bankrate article will come up first in Google. You can see what everyone's offering right now is probably 3.5% to 4% at most places. So that'd be bucket one. Number 2 would be like money market or like a ultra short-term treasuries. So like SGOV is one. If you look that up, it's a very, very low risk, almost no risk, asterisk, almost quote unquote a security, but it is just invested in like, I think 0 to 1 month US Treasury bills. The yield right now, I looked at it yesterday, the 30-day yield was like 4.2%. So a little bit better. The other positive with that is it'll actually be state tax exempt. For those that are high income earners, if you live in California or something like that, that I think moves the needle a little bit more maybe for something like that. And then number 3 would be a CD. So CD rates, but yeah, I just looked it up, anywhere from 4 to 4.3, 4.4% for like a CD from 3 months to a year and a half. If you want to lock up your money for longer, maybe you're able to get in the upper fours. Maybe. I'm really not seeing that though on the bank rate side right now. So again, I don't love CDs for if you have something really well defined, like I know we're PCSing in 2 years. I know we're going to buy a house for 500 grand. I know it's going to be $100,000 down payment. I think you can make the argument, hey, let's go get the highest rate because rates are probably going to come down at some point. But outside of that, I don't love just locking money in a CD. I love that liquidity of either a high yield savings account or if we're going to go invest in SGOV or something like that.
Vanguard actually just released their ultra short treasury ETF as well, V-Bill, Victor Bravo, India, Lima. And it's so new, they don't even have the 30-day SEC trailing return yet, but it'll be about equivalent to SGOV. Yeah. It's a couple basis points cheaper. I think it's one of the cheapest ones out there right now. So we'll probably see the Vanguard effect in those treasury ETFs. Mm-hmm. The treasury ETFs are a pretty recent invention. And I know for myself personally, the only reason I kind of learned about them is because I had some cash in my Schwab brokerage account, and Schwab does a really bad job of investing your excess cash. They're just happy to have it sit there. And so that's how I learned about the SGOV and the V-Bill. And it's super easy. You can purchase it and sell in the same day. There's almost no risk of loss of principal because it's a treasury bill that's going to mature some of them mature in the next week and some of them mature in the next couple months. So you don't have to mess around. What is the US Treasury site? It's just like
treasurydirect.gov or something like that.
Have fun if you go on there.
You used to have to put in your password like on a virtual keyboard with a mouse. Oh my gosh. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm never buying a treasury bill. But now you can very easily through these ETFs. So, that's great. Yeah. High yield savings accounts, the money market funds. Vanguard has a great cash plus product that's FDIC insured. I've got some money parked there as well. And again, all of these, don't go chasing waterfalls, don't go chasing yields because just pick one and stick with them because they're all within a couple basis points of each other. And if you want a better return, put the money into something that's going to give you a better return, like a broad market index fund, low cost. Don't mess around with, trying to eke out a couple extra basis points here and there. Like you said, Eric, it was great getting 4% and 5% on your cash over the last 2 years. But all that money missed out on over 20% returns in the US stock market. So that's quite a delta right there to overcome. Thanks again, Erik, so much for joining us. Again, you can check out his bio and links to all his stuff in the show notes. And we'll catch you in the next episode of the Military Money Manual podcast.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Military Money Manual podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions presented here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. Reference to any commercial products or services does not constitute DoD endorsement of those products or services.